Hello and welcome to my Pillars of Eternity Definitive Edition. Today, part 23. And the last episode we finished last things needed in the Heritage Hill district of the Defiance Base city. And today we'll be going to the Wide March for the first time. So let's start right away. So, as you can see, we are now level 8, so it's really time to get into the White March. And here are the reputation. We are very high in benevolent disposition, and we became last time a hero of Defiance Bay. I am planning to exchange Kana for Sagani when we will be leaving the Defiance Kednoa today. Okay, so what we got here in Stronghold? Oh, just wage and a bad person left the Stronghold.
Yes?
Okay, let's go. And let's see what will await us in White March.
Looks a little healthier than before. Safe travels.
Okay, before leaving, let's level up her. This one is good for the companion. And let's check a little bit the items. Let's give it to her. Oh, that's not a good one, but Boots of Constitution. Yeah, for Palagina. Also, We have damage reduction 7. This one is, I think, better than this one. Okay, that's it. Let's go to White Marsh.
You set out for Stalwart. The White March rises up in the distance, stretching to the north and south as far as the eye can see. It beckons to you with peaks like broken fingers. The road thins to a tattered ribbon, and the shadow of the mountains falls across your path. You've barely begun your climb when the darkening sky pummels you with hailstones and turns the ground beneath you to ice. You press on. The air grows thin, and the treacherous mountain passes funnel screeching winds past your ears. A blizzard forces you to make camp for 3 days, huddling for safety while snow piles around your refuge. At last the weather clears, and you approach Stalwart under a crisp blue sky. There's a noise, high and sharp, coming from the village that sounds at first like another frozen gale. But when you top the rise and reach the village's wooden gates, you see what lies beyond them.
It's Darzyr, with a whole pack of them!
We can take these bastards!
Okay, before continue, we have a new quest. I've reached the village only to find it embroiled in a desperate battle with ogres. If I kill the ogre leading the raid, Darzyr, it should break the ogre's morale and cause them to retreat. And let's see what we have. Nereid attempted to escape, and we built botanical garden. So, what next? A little bit more security. Merchants. Yeah, no security, but we do not have merchants. So let's go fight the ogres. That was fast.
Oh?
Look out! More of them by the fishery! Yeah! That's it!
Oh, Chanter. Let's stun him.
That's it!
Eyes open.
And another ogre.
Stand fast! Reinforcements are here!
Oh, this is a little bit bigger. We need help this way.
That's it!
Run, they'll kill us all.
Hey.
Where are you?
That's it!
I'm ready.
Another stun.
I'm ready.
Certainly. Sharp eyes and keen ears.
Ouch. Let's stun what we can. And you... I completely missed that. I hope I will not get...
That's it!
No, he is down. So let's... Where are you? Knock this down.
That's it!
Oh, Palagina, Palagina, you are... fucked.
Yeah. That's it!
Okay.
That's it! Got!
And knock him down. And you...
That's it!
I'm ready. Freros, seres!
Darcier's fallen! Back to the matron, now!
You're the one Renegade sent for. She'll want to speak with you. Her house is just up the way, next to the Grief's Rest. The messenger pants waving smoke away from his face.
Katie's house is burning!
Renegade, the mayor of Stalwart, has summoned me to her house. No doubt she has additional information about Durgan's battery and what I'll need to do to breach the keep.
Hurry! They're both in there! Yes?
Okay, but before going there, let's...
Help! The hut's coming down!
Let's loot the stuff. And this one is really interesting. But let's try to save the people. Please, you have to help. There's still people trapped in there. The man puts his hand to his head, staring up at the burning house in horror. Who's in there? It's Katie, sir. The roof caved in on her, and the guard would went in to fetch her, surrounded by flames. Ain't got the muscle to pull her out, or nor a means to fight those flames. Please. What's your plan, Mammalian? You want me to run into a building? Someone has to. He turns away from you to continue shouting for assistance. Okay, let's... The roof of this hut is almost entirely enveloped in flames, lighting the snow in stark orange hues. Several beams have been reduced to ember-dotted husks. Through the hut's threshold you can see only billowing smoke. Fire rose as it climbs the timbers. The air feels thick and hot, and the building is a maze of flame, withstanding the smoke and navigating the fire with a challenge. So... I think Eder might be a good choice, because he's strong and we will probably need to pick someone out. Let's try. Eder leaps over the burning threshold, plunging out of sight behind a wall of smoke. Inside the house, fire has pitted the walls and beams, and the thick haze rolls through the building. It is hard to see even a few feet ahead, save for the occasional glimpse of glowing embers. Crouch down to avoid the smoke. Eder moves onward, through a haze of heat and soot. The hut groans and shifts as the blaze grows. With the mighty groan, the burning beam comes crashing down. Caught off guard, Eder is pinned beneath the heavy lock. Push the beam away. When reeling from the impact, Eder is still able to heave the debris away with relative ease. Eder gets back upright, a little winded from the ordeal. A sudden flashover singes Eder's arms. It doesn't stop. Eder, but the pain steadily grows. Pressing forward, Eder comes at last to a wider room. To the left is a man, the source of the faint cries for help. He stands trapped behind a curtain of flame, arms raised to ward off the heat. It may be impossible to reach him without quenching the fires first. To the right, a woman lies unconscious beneath what appears to have once been the roof. She is small, but the rubble trapping her looks heavy. Smoke winds its way up and out into the open air, obscuring all sight of the outside. I think I go for the woman. This woman is trapped beneath a considerable amount of rubble, including a heavy crossbeam. A purpling bruise on her temple suggests that she was struck as the debris fell. Try to lift the rubble off the woman. The crossbeam has provided the woman with some protection against the scattered debris that fell alongside it, but the beam itself is now weighted down. Eder grips the end of the beam and, using every ounce of strength, strains to lift it clear. The beam shifts slightly. Keep trying. After a period of frightless struggle, the beam finally begins to rise by slow degrees. With one great and final effort, Eder heaves the last of the rubble clear of the woman. Though still unconscious, the woman is free of the rubble and can now be moved. Carry the woman out. The woman is of a slight frame, and carrying her proves easier than feeling her from the rubble. Eder hoists her carefully onto a shoulder. Retreat to the exit. Beset by smoke-cloaked air, blistering heat and burning debris, Eder is rapidly losing strength. With every passing moment, survival becomes more unlikely. Keeping a firm hold upon the unconscious woman, Eder turns for the exit. Eder clears the fallen beam with easy graze, avoiding the scattered embers and debris underfoot. The smoke clouds Eder vision and makes it difficult to breathe, but Eder staggers onward. At least Eder comes to the door, rushing out of the blaze and into the mountain air.
Katie, thank the gods you saved her.
I was sure that thing was coming down and taking your friend with it. The man wipes his brow and stares up at the collapsing house. Least you got Katie out when you did. As for poor Lurgolder, his eyes widen as sections of the roof collapses. He looks away, shaking his head. You look like you could use a drink. Take this over to Heferix and have one on me. He flips you a couple flat card bones. So, at least we saved someone. We'll get the rest of these flames put out. Go on and have yourself a drink.
Yes?
Okay, so first thing first, let's check if there is anything hidden in the village, and then we will go directly to the
Certainly.
boss, or the woman mayor. Now wait, rusted wood opened. So let's see what we can find. If we can find anything at all.
I'm ready.
Oh?
That's Diana's house. Oh, Durgan's battery opened.
Nice and quiet.
The Greaves rest. And Renegil's house. We will go here after we check the village. I'm not done yet, damn it. He probably got full pants during the raid of ogres.
What have we here?
Oh, we have also hot springs here. Too bad it's not anime. we would have already some nice cutscene. Idran. The Orlan bows to you. Ah, the adventurer who saved the village. So good of you to visit my humble wagon. I'm Iduran. How's business? He gestures at the village around him. Poor, like this place. Not much coin to be made trading in furs and fish. I came to visit White March because I assumed there would be no competition, and I have none, because there's nothing to compete over out here. Would you like to trade? If you're not making any money out here, why do you stay? His eyes lower. I was rather vocal about my inevitable success with my friends and family. If I give up and return with little more than I left, then... His hands ball into fists. No, it won't be like that. I'm not giving up yet. Show me what you have for sale. Hmm. $9,000. Mind and Constitution. Interesting. 6,000. A lot. Let's see. Maybe later the cloak is really good. But it's too expensive. What he has. Maybe it could be. Anyway, this one we need to give it someone. Let's give it to her.
I'll take a look.
More plants. Another area unlocked.
Slow and silent.
These smelters haven't seen use in a long time. Some plants outside as well.
Keeping an eye out.
I'll find it, without your help. Not giving up. You hear me? Okay. Charlatans, I'll...
To whispers and shadows.
Let's see what he has to talk. What he has to say. A dwarf paces with his head down and arms crossed, only stopping to hurl glances at the building behind him. His face is smeared dark with grime, and soot falls from his beard as he mumbles to himself. Work my hands into bloody stumps in this place, and for what? He kicks at the mound of dirty snow. Start with nothing, leave with less. He extends his arms out. The attack of the ogres has hurt everyone. Hurt. The dwarf hunches his shoulders as if settled with weight. He looks around to the passing villagers. Don't mistake me for one of them. I carry more on my back than tinder and pelts. Well, good riddance. Should have never settled here in the first place. Some things you mean to leave behind. Come to find out, you packed them anyway. But I'm not leaving until I recover what's mine. They can't deny me again. Not after this. Okran gestures at the burned-out buildings. Those sweet-tongued priests took my heirlooms. Bury the memory of my past, they said. No, I don't have even that. I take it you gave something of yours to one of Ondra's gift-bearers. Okran takes his gaze away from the ground and gives you a sideways glance. You're quick. Wish I had had those wits when they spoke of peace and redemption in the eyes of the goddess. Those priests, Ondra's dogs, said the goddess would forgive. That some things are best left to be forgotten. He nods towards the nearby temple. Their leader, Lavda, I believed her words. Another one of them, a gift-bearer, took my medallion. He closed his stocky hand into a fist. And now they won't tell me where it is. They'll respond better to tact than tirades. The dwarf grunts. Sharp metal always used to win me arguments, but I see your point. I'd be surprised if they return it willingly. They believe it's a sacred duty to cast the offering to the goddess in some place where they'll be forgotten. Better to find where they drop them, I think. What's Lavda's role in all of this? She leads that group of crows. They took over the temple as folks started to leave. Come to unburden those that sought to forget their misery here, they say. Tell me about this medallion you want to recover. It belonged to my sister. It was just a pretty trinket to her. To me, the dwarf cast his gaze down. She was the last of my family. At least that still acted like family to me. What else did you give to the priests? The dwarf casts a measuring look at you. He quickly turns his head away and nods. You'd understand its value. My armor, a set finer than I've ever seen, but worthless to an old dwarf. I have traded it for the medallion, but fool that I was, I gave them both. If I can help with anything, just ask. I want to know about your past before you settled here. That was a different life. Better days, until Okran closes his eyes and shakes his head. Motes of soot fall onto his hunched shoulders. It's my burden to bear, not yours. I thought to cast it away, but the memories I lost were all the wrong ones. Goodbye. I don't expect luck to grace me now, but if you find anything, I'll be here. Count on it. He gives you a gross nut. Okrun has lost everything during the attack against Stalwart. Before leaving the village behind, the dwarf wants to recover a medallion he gave to Lavda, priestess of the Temple of Ondra, to be cast away in secret, a decision he now regrets. Okrun gave his medallion to the priestess in the Temple of Ondra. She should know where the gift-bearers drop their offerings to the Lady of Lament. Okrun confirmed that taking offerings once they are given to Ondra isn't a common practice. He found little cooperation from Ondra's followers. His sister's medallion wasn't all that the priests took to be cast away and forgotten. Okrun also gave them his old armor, though he seems interested in recovering only the medallion. This is the temple. We will check it as soon as possible.
I'll see what I can find.
Let's see if we can still find more hidden stuff here. More fish.
Fresh fish! Freshly caught!
Stalwart fishery.
Fresh fish! Freshly caught! Effigy's eyes! It looked at me! Ah!
What was that?
Sharp eyes and keen ears.
A dozen pairs of globular eyes stare up piteously from the discarded heads of the day's catch, awash in a pungent sea of fins and innards. Sift through the fish scraps. Your hand runs up against something round and fleshy, the size of a melon. It is smooth and scaleless, and part seems to be covered in hair, a discarded head, perhaps, but not that of a fish. Poke the head. The head shifts deeper into the barrel's slimy recesses. Pull out the head. With one hand on either side of the head, you begin to lift it out of the barrel, only to have it leap from your grasp as the head's owner springs over the lip of the barrel in an eruption of fish chunks that rain down over the market stall. The man who leapt from the barrel stands facing you, nearly naked save for a loincloth, and drizzled in fish viscera. He is covered head to toe in scars, tears and punctures and the thorny imprints of lashings. Most are faded, like old memories. Despite that, the condition of the man's body is remarkable. the drooping skin at his flanks and elbows, the only evidence of his advanced age. His face is placid, but the rest of him appears prepared for anything.
You must forgive, Zawa. I was not expecting you.
He looks you in the eye at first, but his gaze drifts now and then, settling on strange parts of your face as though distracted by new discoveries. If he is at all flustered, he gives no indication. What were you doing in that barrel? Zahua scratches behind his ear, dismayed.
Resting my eyes, I thought. Waiting for the Malkachoa to bring me insight.
He shakes his head.
It would seem I dozed. A good thing my master was not alive to see it.
Zahua blinks, leaning it to get a better look at you. His enlarged pupils seems to crowd out his pale irises.
Are you real?
Yes?
Of course. I meant no offense. But I find it is best to ask when Malkachoa is involved.
Malkachoa?
A small white mushroom. I have heard it called snowcap in these lands. It can reveal the true nature of many things.
You have a mastery set? The man traces your inadvertent glance at his scars. He smiles politely.
A teacher, not an owner. Zawa is a free man. Well, as free as any of us.
I still don't understand why you were in that barrel.
I was freeing myself from vanity.
Did he say sanity or vanity?
Consider, how can one be vain who is bathed in the smell of dead fish?
There is a proud glint in his eyes. Hard to argue with that.
I had the idea when I passed this way earlier. I am pleased with the results so far.
He smiles at the woman whose head is swiveled towards him as she passes by, a look of revulsion on her face. Distracted, her toe catches on a stone and she nearly falls on her face. He claps his hands together.
Yes, quite pleased.
Do you often smear yourself with fish?
Gods, no. What a way to travel the world. The usual way is to smear yourself with the ashes of the dead. But they do not burn their dead here, so I have to make do with what the land provides.
He sniffs the air.
The cold seems to conquer the smell. Even now, the scent hides itself. Disappointing.
Those scars are from battle? Zahua glances down at his body.
From battle, yes. I left them upon my enemies.
He points at various patches of crisscrossing scars.
These were struck against fear. These against pleasure. These against hatred. Those down there against greed and doubt. And these...
He points to his face.
These were for vanity.
You made those scars?
I cannot take credit for all of them, but I did most of the good ones.
His mouth perks.
I put them there in battle to remind myself what is real and what is not. Our worst enemies are inventions of the mind, pleasure, fear. When we see them for what they are, we become unstoppable.
And you have achieved this?
I feel I have been close, but never for more than an instant. In the moment when the pain is sharpest, the world becomes clear. In that moment, I am a match for anyone.
He gives a slow, assured nod. Your wounds must have caused you to suffer greatly.
Of course, I am fortunate to have suffered so much. If I did not suffer, I would not aspire to free myself from it. I would wander from one unfulfilling goal to the next. More wealth, a better station. My soul would wither. But to search for a place beyond suffering's reach is to nurture the soul, to harden it against the elements.
He clenches his fists in illustration.
Suffering is the greatest gift the gods have given us, their most beautiful, perfect creation. It is the hand that turns the wheel.
His eyes gleam as stealth, looking upon an old and beloved friend. You don't seem like you're from around here.
I was visiting a monastery not far from here. I found it empty, but I met a messenger as I left. He carried a call for aid. Seeing that he would find no monks at the monastery, I chose to go in their place. Zawa is no longer young, but in combat he is still the greatest of the Takan people. It seemed only right that he should go.
Stalwart hired me as well.
I would not say I am hired. I seek no wage, and I promise no result. I have chosen a path, and my spoils come from walking it.
An uneasy frown settles on his face, almost a wince.
And this fortress, this Durgan's battery, its people are gone. Zawa would know why.
If you seek the White Forge as well, I could use the help of an experienced warrior. Zahua's face tilts upward, his eyes fixing on the sky. He remains motionless, entranced. At length he blinks as if awakening and looks back at you. He shrugs cheerily.
If one wishes to swim, it is no time to argue with the current. We are here together in this moment because a perfect force has willed it. Who is Zawa to argue?
He looks you squarely in the eyes, and for once, they do not drift.
I will walk with you so long as the gods wish it so.
Let's be on our way. Okay. Let's
Farewell.
do this for a while.
Too predictable!
Let's see, what do we have here? Nothing. Except monk outfit. Let's give him this and let's get the ring from Sagani and give it to him probably. And yeah. Let's use this. So, welcome to the party.
Yes?
And his skills. Survival 9.
And what does the flame reveal?
Nothing here. Too bad. So we still need to check a little bit here.
And what does the flame reveal?
No more stuff, so let's go here. You'll have to talk with the Renegade. I'm just the messenger. You see a middle-aged woman and a younger man locked in an argument. Both wear clothes streaked with blood and dirt. The young man turns to the woman, a fresh cut visible below his eye.
They've destroyed the stockade, Mother. It's...
Enough. They're gone.
She holds up a hand which is missing the final joint of the ring finger, but it's her voice, sharp and steely, that silences the young man. As he glowers at his toes, she turns to you with dark circles under her eyes and a smile pulls out across her thin lips.
The deliverer of Cadnua. Thank you for making the journey. Abidan knows it's a long one. Well, I'm sure you wagered on a more civilized welcome. Still, we're much obliged for your capable intervention.
She shoots the young man a brief but stern glare. He pulls a knife from his belt and an apple from his pocket and sets to work. There's a job that needs doing. That's what I'm here for.
Then far be it from me to waste your time with idle chatter.
She folds the map in her hand with a quick and merciless pinch.
Stalwart isn't much more than a grease stain on a map. What roads we've got in the White March are basically tracks in the snow. And for every trader or adventurer that comes through, 3 of our own leave for good. But it weren't always so. There was a time when kings and queens sent their firstborn to these mountains, when the White March was the envy of empires.
Her eyes shine, and for an instant she looks like a much younger woman. How the mighty have fallen. What does this have to do with me?
The Pargrin dwarves transformed the White March once. We could bring some of that greatness back to Stalwart. But we need the White Forge.
She raises the map and taps a spot in the middle of white and grey expanse. I know of it.
Then you'll know that no one's felt as much as a summery breeze from the White Forge for over 200 years.
She smooths the creased map.
I'm hoping you can do something about that.
She ignores the young man, who shakes his head, and the crackling logs. Me work a forge? I've never done anything like that.
I'm not asking you to work the White Forge. I want you to find it. We've been trying to breach Durgan's battery for over a year now. Problem is, the other expeditions can't so much as dent the front door.
She rubs at her fatigue-shadowed eyes. Tell me about these other expeditions.
A dozen different groups have come through at our request, and several more besides. Been hoping that one of them could clear the way through Durgan's battery. But young or old, green or seasoned, it don't seem to matter. They cast their spells, chisel at the door, and search the grounds until they've worn new treads into the old stone. The lucky ones eventually go home. Plenty more find themselves on the wrong side of a blizzard, or an ogre raiding party.
Why the sudden interest in the White Forge?
We're an old mining town. Or we were until the Adirans pulled out and left us with a half-dug mine shaft and something resembling an inn.
She thumps the sturdy wooden wall with her fist.
Since then, it's been a steady decline. You've seen the roads. Isn't much we can produce that the Valians can't ship cheaper.
It is what we do.
But the White Forge, well, if we could fire it up again and start producing Durgan steel, or something close to it, wouldn't matter if we're in the White March or the Living Lands, business would come.
She folds her arms and gives you a stiff nod. The young man says nothing, but he tosses a sliver of the apple peel into the fireplace. And that's why you need my help.
That's the long and short of it. We're laborers and fisherfolk, not adventurers. But Durgan Steel could put Stalwart on the map again, open up the mines, bring in new business. We just need the White Forge.
She thumps the desk with her fist. Why is Durgan Steel so special?
Because you can shave stone with it, cleave cast iron in two, and the stuff's as rare as it is remarkable.
In her enthusiasm, Renegil's shift on the balls of her feet. She props one bent arm on the other, pointing distractedly towards the eaves of the house. Steel is steel. It may be light and it may take an edge well, but per complanca, the legends grow with each passing year.
If we could make something even half as good, we'd have a market at our doorstep and work enough for all of Stalwart.
For a split second, her gaze flickers to Aldrich. How is it no one's gotten into Durgan's battery yet?
Where should I start? Ogres, blizzards, or sheer damned inaccessibility?
She ticks the items off on her fingers.
It ain't for lack of trying, I'll tell you that much. Got untold riches in Durgan Steel lying just inside, and never mind the White Forge itself. The Adirans who first settled Stalwart tried to crack it. So did the Valians, and every other cocky adventurer with more metal than sense.
She folds her arms, shaking her head at a pitted floorboard.
But the place has a funny way of sealing itself up. Front door stays shut, the tower entrances are clogged with rubble, and it's been impossible to blast a way in.
Renegil trails off for a moment. The room is silent, but the popping and cracking of the fire. What happened to Durgan's battery?
It don't bear dwelling on. There's too many superstitions about that place as it is.
She waves her mangled hand in a broad crescent, averting her gaze.
Killed each other off, or so the old books say.
He glares at the Renegil's true hooded eyes.
Plenty of tales to go around, but none of them open the battery. And the last thing people need is another reason to fear the place. Whatever it was, the other Pargrin dwarven settlements in the White March, Bone Picker, the Hawk, and the rest, emptied out not long after. moved to gentler, greener lands.
Had the right idea, if you ask me.
Tell me about the Pargrung dwarves.
Pargrin's a word in their language. Means traveler. They've been wanderers for generations, but I couldn't tell you much more.
I don't see why you need the White Forge to make good steel.
Finally, someone talking sense.
He raises his knife and half-peeled apple to the fire in a dramatic gesture of exasperation.
Durgan's steel wasn't just good. It was some of the best. We need the best if we're going to keep Stalwart alive.
She glares at Aldrich even while she speaks to you.
No one alive today has seen the White Forge, but the old stories tell that it was powerful, glowed white-hot, and gave off a steady, even heat, unlike any other furnace. Let better-schooled folk puzzle over how the thing was built. I just want to see it put to use.
All right. Any idea of where I should begin?
The battery's up the mountain to the north, a good hike away.
She jerks her head in the direction of the slope behind the house.
Near Galvino's place, huh?
Aldrich says it's in a breezy tone, but Renegild falls suddenly silent, consternation hardening the lines on her face. He smiles and draws his knife across the apple again.
So it is, though I was going to suggest dealing with that ogre camp before anything.
She compresses her thin lips into a frown. Who's Galvino?
Mestre Galvino, as the old crosspatch prefers it, lives by himself and keeps the wilder and beasts at bay through sheer foulness of his temper.
She means to say he's a skilled smith and animancer, who's lived in the shadow of Durgan's battery for over a decade.
He looks over his shoulder at you and Renegild. And by Animance's flimsy standards, that makes him an expert, does it? He folds his arms.
And he butters his bread on both sides and fits his left shoe before his right. But that's neither here nor there.
She crosses her arms and crumples the page in one tightening fist. You seem flustered all of a sudden. Did he do something to anger you?
Me and the rest of the town. He knows better than to linger at our gates.
What happened with Galvino?
Old lunatic finally went too far, and we sent word to the Valiant Academies. I don't like speaking on it, but if you want to get his guff, just remind him that we gave him the boot.
I see.
Ain't nobody here fond of the man, but he's a clever hand and a quick study. It's a fool who thinks he stayed so close to the battery without figuring something about it.
You said as much to the last party, and we haven't seen hide nor hair of him since. Maybe they didn't run afoul of Baragon's ogres after all.
She raises a grey eyebrow at him. Aldrich shrugs and turns back to the fire.
Just watch your step. Galvino's place is a ways east of the battery, and folk who pass it bring unsettling tales.
Tell me about the ogre camp.
Belongs to Flames That Whisper, Matron Baragon's clan. Hunters tell me they've been active of late.
Hunting elk and otherwise minding their own damn business.
He pops an apple wedge into his mouth and chews it aggressively.
Minding their own business. Never mind the latest expedition's disappearance or the broken stockade.
She pinches the bridge of her nose, squinting.
I'm saying we shouldn't agitate him further.
He makes to toss another slice of peel into the fire, but he fumbles and drops his knife. He bends to pick it up, cursing. I'll gladly comfort Baragon if it will help Stalwart.
One less matron would make our walls safer. What's left of them anyway. Also, Baragons like to have whatever the last expedition found. Rumor has it they disappeared near her turf.
She crosses her arms and looks over to Aldrich.
Killing a matron will only make our problems worse. The way to approach Baragon is with your hands held high.
If anyone could parley with an ogre, I suppose it'd be you. But they aren't known for their patience with prattle.
Got it.
Good. Before you leave town, stop by the Grave's Rest. Most visitors to Stalwart spend some time there, so Hafric and his patrons may be able to give you the lay of the land.
Don't know about you, but I'm perched all of a sudden. Actually, I want to ask you about something.
What's on your mind?
Can you tell me anything about the last expedition that went to Durgan's Battery?
They didn't volunteer much, and I knew better than to ask.
She scratches her jaw, frowning.
I've seen all types charging through here. Professional companies with shiny new equipment as brazen as you please, and hopeless runts with nothing but tattered leathers. But these folk, I don't know what they were after, and the way they looked at you made you feel cold all over.
She shakes her head as if dislodging a bad dream.
Wish I could tell you more.
Perhaps we'll find more in the battery itself, yes? He nods at you with a guarded look.
What's on your mind?
I have questions about Durgan's Battery and the White Forge.
The Pargrin dwarves guarded it like a mother bear. It's a wonder we know as much as we do.
I want to ask you about something else.
What's on your mind?
I want to know more about Stalwart.
Adir founded us back in their colonial days to supply ore to the Empire. Saw a fair bit of traffic from both sides of the White March then.
She rubs the knob of her shortened ring finger.
But after the Deerwood claimed independence, Defiance Bay found cheaper places to get ore. Didn't have much reason to maintain our supply routes.
Isn't Stalwart part of the Deerwood?
Officially. Though with the state the roads are in, you wouldn't guess it.
Tell me some of the more important places around town.
Here in the center? Let's see. The Grave's Rest is next door. Hafric can set you up with a room and a hot meal there. The fishery's just on the edge of the lake, and the Temple of Andra is next to it. No one keeps a secret like Lavda. Or so I'm told. A few folk live in this part of town, too. Seemed a lot safer before the ogres broke through the western gate. Thiersch lives next to the old mine shaft, and Tana, the old mine overseer, is next door to me.
She jerks her head toward the wall. What do you do here?
I'm the mayor, or so I'm reminded every time there's a game shortage, ogre attack, or a neighborly dispute. I'm a builder by trade, though. Traveled all over Air Glonfoth and the Deerwood in my younger days, but ended up back here anyway.
She gives you a vague smile that's gone as quickly as it appears. Let's talk about something else.
What's on your mind?
Very well. Galvino lives in the shadow of Durgan Battery. He may know something of interest about the keep. Renegild told me I can find Galvino, an eccentric smith and animancer, east of Durgan's Battery. Aldrich believes he may have something useful to tell me about the keep. There's an ogre camp in the ice caves near Stalwart. The clan is led by a matron known as Bergan. Matron Bergan is somewhere in the ice caves, surrounded by her clan. Renengild wants me to kill Bergan and her followers to remove the threat to Stalwart. Bergan is also believed to have the previous expedition's goods and gear. Those items may help me with Durgan's Battery. Aldrich advised against fighting Bergan. He believes I may be able to talk with her to avoid further trouble. Renegil told me that Durgan's Battery has been sealed shut since its original owners vanished over 200 years ago. Stalwart has called many other adventuring companies to the area, but none have breached the fortress. My task is more complicated than it initially seemed, but Renengild and her son gave me a couple of leads. They suggest I speak with Galvino, an animancer and smith, and confront Matron Bergan, the leader of the local ogre clan. Matron Bergan clan set up camp in ice caves near town. Renengild believes that Bergan killed the previous expedition, the leading key group. If they found anything useful, Bergan would have it. Galvino lives near the Dragon's Battery. Aldrich believes he may know something useful, if I can convince him to help me. Renengild has advised me to speak to the patrons as the griefs rest. The innkeeper there can provide me with a hot meal and place to rest.
Not a sound.
Any luck with Durgan's battery?
Farewell. Judging from the large hole behind the gills, it can be safely assumed this trophy fish was shot with a pistol and not caught by the hook or a net.
Something else you need?
Do you know anything about Durgan's Battery?
It's a fool's hope. A fantasy that's kept these parts inhabited longer than they should be.
He glances around the old house and its worn furnishings.
They say the Pargrunin dwarves developed Durgan's steel, became powerful, rich. And then one day, they locked their doors and died.
He shrugs, turning his palms toward you.
Nothing like a mystery to stir folk up. Most of Stalwart is convinced that some Pargrin secret'll save us all. But that don't stop them from whispering a prayer when they pass the old fortress.
A sour smirk crosses his lips. Earlier, you said I should make peace with Matron Bergan.
About the only thing folk here haven't tried. Killing one more matron won't change things for long.
He shakes his head.
Besides, her clan's flames that whisper. The one that attacked us was Wolf with many mouths. I'd know him anywhere.
They're cut from the same cloth, Aldrich. Only a matter of time before Baragon marches through that gap in our walls.
At the sound of Renengild's voice, Aldrich's shoulders stiffen. His jaw works in a silent but furious retort. You seem to disagree with Renengild on quite a few matters.
Mother's convinced that a magic forge will turn this frozen crack into a hub of civilization. She can't accept this place is dying. Me, I'd just as soon move on.
He scrapes the sole of his boot on the straight but weathered floorboards. What do you do here?
I'm a carpenter. Mother's a builder. So it felt like a good fit at the time.
He presses his lips into a wry frown.
Not that we've got a lot of new folk to build houses and furnishings for. These days, I spend most of my time fixing up the stockade.
Farewell.
Hard living in a place like this. It's a wonder anybody stayed at all.
We're damn lucky you arrived when you did.
Been looking.
The man is sweating despite the cold. He opens his mouth to speak, but all that comes out in a loud, hacking cough. He bends forward, bracing his hands on his tights, while he heaves and gasps. After a lengthy duration, he raises a finger, still panting. All Heferic's fault. Them fools sent me to the other side of town, looking for you. At last he stands again. He wipes his dripping brow with the back of his hand and then offers that hand to you in greeting. Shake his hand. Pleasure to meet you. I'm the captain of the militia around here. Nice to meet you. I wanted to catch you before you went running off into the wilds. See, there's a few dangerous folk you might be on for the lookout for. Plus, if you're heading out to Longwatch Falls, I thought you might come you might could pick up a thermal pearl for me. He looks away and twists the toe of his boot into the snow. You want me to find a thermal pearl for you? That's the thing. I already found it. I just need someone else to go out and get it. Saw it in the hot springs up near Longwatch Falls. Would have grabbed it myself, but that's when I looked around and saw the Lagufeth. Must been 50 of them. He spreads his arms wide. I would have thought, but I started to wonder what the rest of Stalwart would do without me, so I ran. For the sake of the village, of course. What is a thermal pearl anyway? They form in the hot springs, something to do with all the minerals in the water. It smells kind of funny, but they're full of minerals. Just have to crumble them into a pint. He grins, and you notice that his gums are bleeding. What are we talking about? Just trying to keep my teeth as long as I can. This game and fish diet ain't easy on anyone. Like I said, the Pearls is one of the thermal pools near Longwatch Falls. Shouldn't be hard to spot. Tell me more about the Longwatch Falls. It's east of Stalwart. Got some nice views of the valley, but most folk avoid it these days. Plenty of wilds nearby, and it only takes a few inches of snow to block the pass. If you're heading out that way, I suggest talking to Thirsk. He might have something to help you deal with the Lagufeth. That's all I needed to know. Stop by Thirsk Place before you leave town. He's in the house next to mine's. He's a veteran hunter who knows the wells better than anyone. Remind me about... okay, farewell. The elder wants a thermal pearl from the hot springs near Longwatch Falls. The hot springs elder told me about are east of town, near Longwatch Falls. There's where he saw the thermal pearl and the horror of Lagufeth. The elder recommended I visit Turks and experienced hunter before braving Longwatch Falls. So, Diana... Let's go... maybe to fishery.
Sharp eyes and keen ears.
Ah, now we can all free ourselves from vanity.
Just a few minutes more and the fishery would have burnt too.
Back to work, everyone. No time for dallying.
Half my shift was on the militia. We lost a lot of people. This tattered net appears to have been set aside for mending. These roasting fish provide much of the pungent odor permeating the fishery. The dead eyes of speckleback iron-toothed pike and frostdiver fish gazes up at you. I wasn't expecting anyone to come by the fishery for a while. Guess that's the proper way to go about it. Really, carry on like it's business as usual. Can I get you anything? Let me see what you have. Of course. Fishes. Oh, ivory worm figurine. What's this? Oh, 6,000. Too much.
A fine thing you reached us when you did. They would have burned the fishery next, mark my words.
He wraps your hand in a sturdy handshake.
And the last thing this lot needs is another excuse to knock off early.
He raises his voice at his last remark and glowers around the room. The other fisherfolk looks studiously away and focus on mending nets, gutting fish and sorting the day's catch. I can't imagine why they'd be in a hurry. He looks as if he's trying not to breathe.
Anyway, excuse the mess. If there's something you need, the clerk can get you sorted.
He raises a graying eyebrow at the men sorting various stocks and supplies near the back of the room.
Just watch your step if you've a mind to look around. The floors are slick and none too pleasant to fall on.
I got questions about the fishery.
Been running it 4 decades now. Reckon I can tell you what you want to know.
What do you do here?
Just about everything. I track the day's catches and see that our nets and hooks are in working order.
He crosses his arms over his broad chest, throwing his shoulders back.
My family's been in charge of the fishery since the early days of Stalwart. I know the best spots to find frost diver and iron-toothed pike, and I make sure we don't overfish the speckleback.
Seems like a big operation.
It may stink of fish guts, but there's no place more critical to Stalwart's survival.
He nods, a blush of pride rising about his beard.
Herds come and go, so there's seasons when our catch sustains the village.
He glances around the fishery, bustling with activity and warm with the heat of the cook fire.
But try telling these folk as much. We go home each day covered to the elbows in fish oil and entrails, reeking of our work.
His eyes soften with the gaze of a stern but loving father. Eloth forces a smile. Charming.
Stalwart's shrinking, but it would disappear if we lost the fishers. I drive him hard, but I can't afford to do otherwise.
That's all I wanted to know.
Need anything else?
Forever. Okay, let's check the new task. I met Grind, the fisherman of Stalwart. He is a gruff fellow, but he seems to take a lot of pride in his role.
Need something else?
Certainly.
Let's go to the temple. Perhaps if I adjust this like so... Mista.
Oh, it's working! Yes! I can't believe it! It's really... Oh.
The dwarven woman looks at you, a disappointed expression on her face. In her hands is a large, rectangular box, covered in strange dials and symbols. I get that reaction a lot.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be so rude. I'm Ista. I heard we have you to thank for clearing out the ogres. I'm glad Stalwart survived. It would have been a disappointing trip up here otherwise.
What's the device you're holding?
My ore locating divination tool. Well, that's what it will be. I have to calibrate it. Right now it seems to think you're a copper deposit. My Animancer contacts did suggest that a particular strong soul essence might interfere. I'm more interested in minerals in any case.
Maybe I do have a strong soul.
I suppose that's possible. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, unfortunately.
What are you looking for?
I'm trying to recreate the instruments that first led the Pargrin dwarves to this mountain. This is my latest prototype. Centuries ago, dwarves carrying tools just like this one followed their readings to what is now the battery. If I can recreate their work, then I may be able to find ore deposits elsewhere. I was hoping to test it, but my arrival was delayed by word of the ogre attack. I haven't been able to find anyone to venture up the mountain since.
I could go up the mountain for you.
Really? That'd be wonderful. I just have to adjust the device, you see.
Her hands move swiftly over the box, adjusting knobs and dials.
It should point you toward metal deposits. We already know the battery rests on some rich veins, but I was hoping to get a reading of the surrounding mountainside. If you can follow the readings to ore and bring back a sample, I can use it to refine the device. Thanks ever so much for this.
A woman named Ista is trying to recreate an alchemical instrument by which the battery dwarfs first located the site upon which they erected their fortress. She has a prototype. She wants tested, if someone will brave the valleys to do so. Ista is certain that her device works similarly to those used by the dwarves of Durgan's battery to divine the location of valuable metals. She has asked me to test the device on the mountainside surrounding the battery. Let's see if any more NPCs are around. Probably not. No. Let's go to the temple.
Sharp eyes and keen ears.
A young man dressed in sturdy leathers glares at you. The creases in his face, tanned despite the scarce sunlight of the region, suffers a slight twitch as you approach him. I've got nothing for you. Speak with Lavda if you must. He turns away, his nose wrinkled. Veins course under this woman's pale skin like icy fissures, yet when she speaks, her voice flows warm and soothing. Ondra welcomes you into her embrace. Her features soften into a look of practiced compassion. We are here to ease the pain of your past, ready to take your burdens? With a thin smile she nods. If you let the goddess help with your hardships, of course. I want to ask you about Okrun's heirloom? No, let's tell me about Ondra first. Ondra is the goddess of redemption, deep like an ocean and gentle as a mother. She is here to relieve her children of their darkest burdens. We came here to aid the villages, to heal the wounds of the past that fester in their souls. I thought Ondra was the goddess of loss and mourning, not redemption. That's, The priestess crosses her arms and shifts her white, common notion. Others may believe so, but the goddess' mysteries are profound. Her true power lies in redeeming your loss and regret. Was there something else you wanted to talk about? I want to know about the gift bearers. Gift bearers to Ondra's most valued work. They carry the material burdens of unfortunate souls into her embrace so that the goddess may help them forget. I want to ask you about Okrun's heirloom. The dwarf already asked. We gave him the counsel he needed. Slight irritation sharpens her tone. She seems to catch herself, modulating her voice back to a pleasant timbre. And naturally, we'll do what we can for you too. Ask what you will. Okrun wants his medallion back. She brings her hands together and nods. Ah, Okrun, how often we let the shadows of the past become a burden even to others. That medallion, it waits on Okrun's mind. You're kind to help, but what he really needs is to cast away those memories. He's changed his mind. As a priest, you must listen. I listened to him. Such dark memories, so much regret. We took on his burdens for his good and for the good of the village. His belongings, his past, now rest in Ondra's realm, to be forgotten so that wounds of the soul may heal. This is the will of the goddess. Her will flows in ties. Maybe Okrun still needs the medallion to discover how to forget. For a moment, the priestess scans the floor before her as if in search for an answer. She nods. You're well versed in the intricacies of our faith. No use in hiding anything from someone like you. There's no need to quarrel over the mysteries of goddess' will. I'll tell you what you wish to know. Okrun's heron was taken by Ixtli, chosen gift-bearer among us, to be cast away as an offering to Ondra. Only he knows where. She pauses and looks at you intently. You could ask him yourself, but he's on a trek through the mountains of Durgan's Battery. If you run into Ixtli, tell him he has urgent duties to attend here. It's hard to believe that only the gift bearer knows where Ondra's offering are cast away. Is it? Our goddess frees us from our earthly burdens. It's best if only one of us knows where they are taken, lest we all end up suffering under their weight. Tell me about your gift bearer. Ixtli has business near Durgan's Battery. Those mountains are dangerous. If you insist upon carrying out this request of Okrun's, then that's where I'd search for answers. Let me ask you about something else. Was there something else you wanted to talk about? Very well. Lavda claimed that only Ixtli, a gift-bearer, knows the location of Okron's medallion. Unfortunately, he is still on a journey near Durgan's battery. Leave me be.
Oh? Certainly.
As you step outside, the heavy wooden door of the temple slams shut behind you. You hear someone bearing it from the other side. It sounds like the priests have engaged in an agitated conversation. You get the sense that they are discussing you, but you are also certain that the door is too thick to eavesdrop through. Although there may be other places nearby where you'd stand a better chance. Lavda claimed that I overheard a commotion inside the Temple of Ondra after I spoke with Lavda. Perhaps there's something else to be learned from the conversation between the priestess and her acolytes. I can't believe this.
Nice and
How
quiet.
could you? The wooden shutters of the temple's window closed tight, muffle a set of voices coming from within the building. You can't quite make sense of the murmur, but cracking a shutter open would likely help. A rusty iron latch held the window's shutters closed. With care, you should be able to unfasten it without being noticed. Unfasten the latch. You carefully begin to lift the latch from its metal hook. Halfway there, the rusted iron resists with a screech. You freeze, listening to the voices in hopes the priest didn't hear. Their conversation continues uninterrupted. Pour some oil on the latch. You grab the latch and apply just the right amount of oil, nudging the metal until its rust gives way without a sound. Carefully, you pull the window shutters open enough to let the voices flow through. You hear a man speaking, his tone agitated. You do that? Hope the mountains will do it. What if Iksh? His sentence cuts, as if the man were speaking to all sides of the room. Suppose he tells them instead. What then? You recognize Love's voice responding. Why would he? And with all those dangers near the battery, our gift-bearer won't delay. I expect the man interrupts her. You always expect. Look, where that's taken us. A dying village. Ogres at the walls. Ixtli's not back yet, and now I have to do his pa. His voice drops and sits, muffling what he has to say. After a moment, Lavdas replies, Do you think I wanted this? That I could have known in advance? A pause ensues, its tension growing until the priest's voice cuts it in half. We can't wait for him. We must fish out the last batch, quickly. After that, we'll decide. The manner responds in a broken voice, barely audible. You only distinguish the last words. In that rusted wood pond, I'll go. Their exchange seems to end. Cautiously, you step away from the window of Onra's temple. I listened to a private conversation between Lafta and her acolytes. Apparently, they worry for the safety of their gift-bearer, Ixtli, during his journey near Drugan's battery. The priest also spoke of something important to them that's hidden in the Russet Wood. Let's visit Tirsk.
To whispers and shadows.
It must be soon. 2 days, no more.
The shaft of each spear is splintered and broken, each of them held together only by tightly bound leather straps. These necklaces have been made from the teeth and claws of various predators, wolves, bears, and lions. This dwarf is busy staring into the fire, slowly puffing away on his pipe. As you greet him, he is visibly startled and his pipe clatters to the floor.
Sorry. Didn't hear you come in. My ears aren't what they used to be.
He stoops, wincing, to retrieve his pipe. When he rises again, he has a hand against his side. Are you hurt?
Wasn't the ogres, I can tell you that. Put a few arrows in one of those and they generally have the good sense to back off. But I've been hunting this wolf for near a year now. A man-eater. Cunning, nasty thing. Every time I get close, it just slips away. The beast has already claimed many lives. The first victim was my son, Saldrin.
Tirsk looks down at his pipe for a moment, features hardening. Zahua leans in eagerly. Go on. Tirsk furrows his brow for a moment, but continues anyway.
Got the better of me this last time. Distracted me long enough for one of its kin to turn up. Nearly bit me clean in half. I'm a few weeks out from trying again.
You said this thing is a wolf?
No ordinary wolf. A monster. This creature is big. And I see the signs it leaves behind. The mess it made to the last couple of hunters and the elk. Doesn't always finish its meals. Damn thing might be sick. Might have a bullet in its jaw. Something. In any case, it needs to be put down.
Where is this beast?
It roams the russet wood out to the west. Seems to have decided the lake is a good place to find prey. Yeah. It's picked off some scattered ogres from time to time. But mostly it's been going after hunters, travelers.
Can you tell me about your previous encounters?
Nothing to tell. Near misses, all of them. One time he clambered right up the cliffs to avoid my snares. Another time, he chased a bear into my camp. I nearly had him once. I could hear him below, eating, and I had the gun aimed right for him. Until the wind changed. He charged headlong into the tree to get at me. Nearly knocked me off my perch. And when I righted myself, he was gone.
I'll keep an eye out for it.
It needs doing. But I warn you, this beast is not to be trifled with. It must make its lair somewhere to the west. If you mean to go there, keep your wits about you. Watch yourself on the mountain. In these lean times, everything looks like prey to something.
Who are you?
I'm Thiersch. I've lived here long enough that Kith have started calling me the Old Hunter. And that's about all I can say for myself.
I have some questions.
Coming to your elders for advice, is it? What can I do for you?
What can you tell me about Stalwart?
Well, I can tell you it won't be here much longer if things go on as they are. With the mines closed, we've lost what put us on the map in the first place. We're losing people every month. Too many mouths to feed and not enough to support them. Even the game's dwindling. I've been lucky. I've hides and horns enough to keep the traders happy, but now the ogres are picking the rest of us off.
What can you tell me about the ogres? Only that they've been coming down in force, again and again, trying to drive us out or kill us outright.
The moment we started looking into Durgan's battery, it was like we'd kicked a hornet's nest. You made a good showing against that last group, by the way. I think you've given them reason to think twice about coming back.
Why is the hunting so poor?
It's been a colder season than usual, and the elk herds aren't faring well. We're stuck fighting with the ogre clans and the wolves over what's left. Not to mention the occasional beast. We've lost a lot of young hunters.
Has the legacy struck Stalwart as well?
It has. We had some hope in the early days that we'd be spared, isolated as we are. That hope died in a hurry. Not everyone's been so unlucky, of course. You'll see a few pampered sprats around.
Treating them like precious stones won't see them grow up any faster, if at all. The sudden sorrow in his features belies his soft laughter. You must have some interesting hunting stories.
Long hours checking snares and waiting out elk, mostly. Used to hunt some of the big ones. Bear, stelgare. But up here, it comes down to necessity. Which means keeping Stalwart fed, or else keeping it safe. Thing is, the last hunt didn't go so well, as you can see.
The elders said I should talk to you before I head to Longwatch Falls. And good thing you did. Hot springs north of the road are crawling with Lagufeth. I'm surprised the elder found himself out there. The thing to know about Lagufeth is they're fast, tolerant to cold too, so try another angle of attack. Something seems to occur to him. He pats his pockets, clenching his pipe between his teeth. These will come in handy. Use them if you get into trouble. He hands you a few sealed bottles. The old hunter looks you up and down, puffing on his pipe. If I'm being honest, though, I'd say those beasts are still going to be a challenge for you. I know you held your own against those ogres, but it might be wise to wait a spell before taking on this Lagufeth. He taps his pipe ash into the fire pit. That's all the questions I had. Thiersch only inclines his head in acknowledgement, tapping out his pipe. Farewell. Thiersch has described his hunt for a dangerous and very large wolf that is preying on villagers within the russet wood. According to Thiersch, the wolf makes its lair in the area, though he has not been able to determine the den's location. Thiersch warned me that the Lagufeth are fast and resistant to cold. He also gave me potions that might help with the fight.
Watch yourself on the mountain. In these lean times, everything looks like prey to something.
Whatever.
Yes?
The Grave's Rest and Diana's house, and it should be everything.
Certainly.
At least you made it here in one piece. Farah lost her wagon and crew. Give me a few minutes, will you? Very fault.
Figured you'd be out of here in a flash after the fighting died down. Most people don't stick around after they figure out the ogres are making regular visits. I would have helped fight them monsters off, you know, if I didn't think I'd just get in the way. And with you there to handle things, everything turned out well enough, didn't it? Don't see why Havrick's still sour at me.
What's this about Heferick?
Oh, Havrick's the innkeeper over at the Grave's Rest. I may have been hiding in the inn when the fighting started. The raid didn't improve his disposition any. Did you know he has a whole case of Fenland liquor in there? I keep offering to buy it off him, but he says he's saving it up for when the battery's open again. As if we're gonna last that long. Anyhow, he said he'd thrash me up and down the mountain if I didn't leave him be.
What's so special about this stuff?
They say a single drop changes your life. You'll never want to have a drink of anything else. Probably that's all rubbish, but it's supposed to be very good.
I see.
It's delusional is what it is. Point of fact, what with you dealing with ogres and everything, maybe you'd, you know, be willing to help me out.
Oh, bravo. Subtle indeed.
Havrick keeps all the good stock in the inn cellar. Out of sight, you see. I mean, it's bound to be under lock and key, but I'm sure he wouldn't miss a single bottle. Not with everything that's going on.
What does stealing wine for you have to do with fighting ogres?
Well, Havrick can be a little intimidating when it comes to his beverages. But otherwise, not much, I guess.
And what do I get out of this?
I'll pay you for it. I swear it. We'll split my wages. And the bottle, too, if you like. I just want to be able to say these lips have tasted the best the Ishamael Plains have to offer.
Anyone ever tell you you're a little strange, Rayfold?
Nothing so kind. You try living here a few years and see how you turn out.
Rayfold is desperate for a taste of Fenland liquor, and the only source of it is Heferick's private and zealously guarded stocks. Rayfold, the clerk at the local fishery in Stalwart, claims that Heferick has a store of expensive spirits at the inn, tucked away somewhere in the cellar. Rayfold has offered me a reward in exchange for finding a bottle for him.
Please tell me you found it. I've got a craving like you wouldn't believe.
Farewell.
Silence surrounds me.
They gone? Have those nasty brutes finally left?
These teeth have been sanded smooth in preparation for carving.
I heard the ogres outside, tearing down walls and murdering folk. Don't remember how things got this bad.
The elderly woman kneads her hands. Her knuckles are swollen knobs and her palms are rich with calluses that scrape and rasp as she rubs them together.
But you're the new adventurer. Renengild's latest volunteer.
She squints at you, leaning precariously forward on her wobbling legs.
She said you don't suffer nonsense. Bet you'd whip those layabouts at the mine into shape.
She sniffs and gives you a swift nod. I'd like to ask you about something.
Did you say something, dear?
Tell me about yourself.
Me? I was the overseer at the mine, back when it was running. Got shut down decades ago when we couldn't sell or ship the stuff. But I still remember plenty about the mining business. And I got as many folk as I can digging out the entrance.
She taps her head, a spotted dome under a thinning thatch of hair.
Been praying to the salty wench that I don't forget too much afore they finish the job.
She winks. That's all.
Got to speak up? My hearing ain't what it was.
Leave.
Zawa, you mind if I borrow some of that Malkachoa?
You are searching for insight?
Nah, I was just gonna feed it to Durance while he was sleeping and pretend to be the ghost of Aethys.
I also have a pepper that will make him think he is being slowly devoured by a great serpent, if you are interested.
Looks like the fire is already down.
Feels like it's hardly worth putting the huts back up.
Better than standing out here shivering.
At least you made it here in one piece. Farah lost her wagon and crew.
Me and Sledge are thinking about heading down, joining a caravan over to Dawning.
Dawning? What for? You like your ogres bigger?
We'd have work at least, and I'm damn sick of fish.
Okay, I think this will be it for today. Before talking to anyone else in the inn, I end the episode for today because it took a little bit long already and it's time to go to bed. So, thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon.